Hey folks, this is Rose. This is an article that was brought to my attention this morning, and I thought it was important enough that I would cover it and post it. This is from the Alexander Higgins blog, and this one's titled, Police Announce Plans to Weaponize Drones Flying Over U.S. Skies. I will provide the link below. I'm not going to read this entire article, and there is no copyright infringement intended in sharing this information. All I am doing is providing some education to folks that need to or want to listen. As many know, the drones have been deployed over U.S. skies for some time. 2 months after the NDAA authorized the deployment of 30,000 drones over the U.S. skies, police announced plans to weaponize them to attack people. And I'm not going to read the whole article, like I said, but here's some excerpts that were posted on the blog. First, the NDAA Trojan unleashed massive military drone deployment in U.S. airspace. And there's a little article, or excerpt of an article there. And then there is a change that was made to HR 658, which is a House resolution, which is actually to the NDAA. And what this resolution did, which is really rather important, is the final version replaced the word military with the word civil, and authorized the integration of civil unmanned aircraft into the national airspace system. Soon after, the government lost a lawsuit and was forced to reveal the location of 63 top-secret killer drone bases already operating inside the U.S. This is a link. I'll really quickly go to that link because I do want to show you the extent of the bases that were revealed. Obviously, these are not all the bases, but these are ones that were revealed. You can't see that map, but I'm going to just real quick. I'll provide the link. Show you. This is the U.S. and all these red dots are locations where licenses have been granted for the use of drones within the U.S. And the blog goes on to zoom into a couple areas in the U.S. Apparently, Yukon, which is probably less than 50 miles from me, has a drone site, and it's one of 19 educational institutions to own spy planes. This is the drone site closest to New York City, and it does say the Northeast is the region with the highest concentration of these sites. It shows D.C. and the high level of drone sites in that area. It shows Florida with at least 3 that I can see on this map, but there's another one over here. And this particular one is near the Canadian border in North Dakota. It shows one in Alaska, and it goes on to Texas and to California. Again, I'll provide these links so you can take a closer look if you're really interested. Also, there's a YouTube video. Freedom Watch is a pretty good news source. I've watched quite a few of their videos. I'm not going to play this, but you can go to the link and play it on YouTube. This also provides on this blog the FAA list of permitted drone operators, and this kind of really opened my eyes because, you know, the obvious is the Air Force, the Army, and some other government organizations, but you also have police departments, you have cities, a city in Kansas, North Little Rock Police Department, DARPA, DHS, DOE, Department of Energy, Department of Agriculture, Department of the Interior, and then we have some colleges and universities, the FBI, of course, and some police departments, and again, more universities, sheriff's offices, etc. So these, just to repeat, are the FAA list of permitted drone operators. And obviously there's a lot of issues with the FAA and these drones, because I don't believe, from what I've seen so far, that they've really coordinated the flying of drones with air traffic. And that in itself is an issue. I mean, I've heard reports of planes that have been spotting things, or pilots that have been spotting things in the air and they don't know what they are. My guess is they're drones. So, I think that was all I was going to cover from that part of the blog. I'll go back to the original article that I was looking at. I did want to point out a couple more things from the original blog. Of course, there's an excerpt out of groups concerned over arming of domestic drones. Another blurb out of Police Unleashing Army of Assassination Drones Against U.S. Citizens. And this title kind of really struck me. We're killing civilians while Al-Qaeda is trying to turn on electricity. And there's a link to that. And I'm going to quickly read the end of Alexander Higgins' blog, this particular one, because I think it's important. And it took me a couple readings to really let it sink in. If you think for even a minute this will not soon happen on U.S. soil, you only need look at the past decade, as the U.S. government has slowly redirected their so-called anti-terrorism policies from overseas enemies toward U.S. citizens on American soil. Before I go on, I'm going to remind folks that the propaganda law was just passed, which means the U.S. government can now use propaganda on U.S. citizens in America. Torture, indefinite detention without charge, no right to a lawyer, no right to see a judge, no right to a trial, freedom of press, suppressed by the NDAA, freedom to protest being legalized, and facing brutal crackdowns, U.S. citizens being thrown in jail for engaging in free speech activities such as uploading videos to YouTube, U.S. citizens being targeted for assassination with no trial, no judge, no jury, just straight to execution. An armada of drones which conduct assassinations overseas are coming home and being further weaponized so they can be pointed at us. This all comes as Uncle Sam aims his multi-billion-dollar spy network at U.S. citizens, while being given the power to intercept all our communications to use to engage in preemptive raids and crackdowns for thought crimes, while the FBI continues to frame Americans for their terror plots, and cops continue to go unpunished for egregious misconduct and police brutality that often results in the death of an innocent person. Meanwhile, the government official and the elite have launched a campaign of economic, financial, environmental, and physical warfare, and are excluded from punishment by an ever more obvious two-tiered judicial system that has been authorized by a system of crony capitalism on both sides of the aisle, where our politicians and bureaucrats are now owned by corporations, special interest groups, and lobbyists, to the point our nation is no longer even a capitalist society. It is a fascist, oligarchical, corporatist, totalitarian dictatorship. Whew, that's a long description. Anyway, I do recommend you go out to the article, follow some of the links. Alexander Higgins does a great job of covering, or I should say uncovering, some very important information that as American citizens we really should be aware of. So, thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Even with this news, the news is just intended for you to be aware and for education.